Coming in hot, went viral, not because we put it in a Christian box. Will Smith used it, Kim Kardashian used it, and then you let God change people's lives with stuff like that.
Well, let's kick this off. Reconstruction is out. It is a phenomenal record. I'd say I've listened to it front to back now multiple times. Immediately, you can tell the production value is there, and it's awesome. But let's start with just the title alone. When you think about Reconstruction, obviously a lot of our brains are now going to deconstruction. It's become shorthand a bit for people who are walking away from their faith or have abandoned that. But why was this important for you to kind of reframe that conversation? And you can hear that, starting with track 1.
Yeah, I think, man, there's just a lot of misconceptions and the rumor mill goes crazy. Like, what does Lecrae mean when he says deconstruction on my last project? And really what I'm talking about is spiritual renewal. I'm talking about getting rid of some things that didn't make sense. Some things that we have married into our faith that were never supposed to be married. Our Christian faith is not supposed to be married to our political system, regardless of what side of the aisle that you're on. And so some of us need to deconstruct or tear that outside of our faith foundations. Our Christian faith is not built on like how many church members you have and how big your church is. I think we got to tear that down. You're not more successful in ministry if your church is bigger, or it's not a healthier church if there's more members. And then even just our walk, right? We can just try to check boxes. Did you do your quiet time? Did you go to Sunday service? And it's like, man, this is not what this is about. Like, so it's just tearing some of those walls down and reconstructing on the firm foundation, which we never want to leave, which is Jesus. But then just saying like, man, what should be built here, and what does the fruit of the Spirit look like in our day-to-day lives now? And that's really kind of what the album is about.
Yeah, and it is an album experience. I wanted to chat with you about that too, because look, we live in a very singles-driven world. I mean, I know even a lot of the Reach artists, you're pumping out singles. We're hearing them all the time, and they're great. But this is an album. This is a front-to-back experience. And I can tell, obviously, was there that decision-making for you, knowing also this was coming in at number 10 for you for a studio record?
Very important, man. I think people don't make albums anymore.
Yeah, it's a lost art.
Yeah, they don't make albums anymore. And I just had to listen to my fans, man. I had to listen to what they were saying. And they wanted more. They wanted concepts. They didn't want me to follow the trends. They had grown up with me with albums like Gravity and Rebel and Anomaly. And I think I wanted to get back to that, but I didn't want to conjure it up. I wanted it to be authentic. So how do you make it authentic is you got to kind of go back to some of the roots and like, okay, what were we doing? We were just hanging out with fans intentionally. We were at community centers and prisons, and, we didn't smell like green rooms and first class flights. You know what I mean? We smelled like sheep. And I just wanted to go get some more sheep dung on me. You know what I mean? And just be amongst the people. And that's why the album feels the way it does, because, man, there was so many. I mean, the last 3 years of my life was just being with the sheep and, free shows at prisons and convos. And then you just get to hear all of how that affected me in an album.
Do you think some of that's coming with age also? Just the fact that you're making an album now, we're in our 40s. This is a different time than 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, your career now is one that we can, like you said, you can look back on 10 albums worth, but it's got to also be a bit of it too. It's just, we're all at a little bit of a different point, not only in our walk, in our faith, but just in our life. When you're in your 40s, it's starting to change.
That's absolutely right, man. And I told my son the other day, I said, listen, you've never been my age, but I've been yours. You know what I mean? Like, I've just seen some things. And if you trust me, I promise I got you. But you're going to have to trust me because I've been here before. And I think you're right. There's just, as someone else said, there's just more in the rearview mirror now that I can refer to. I got more tools in my shed that I can lay out in front of people.
I think you can come up with great art from that. And obviously you've been also waving the flag for Atlanta since the 90s, now early 2000s, when you made your move down. When you have that situation and we are able to get collaborators like you have on this record, I grew up there. I think if you spent time there, you can't be, you can't avoid the influence of what's going on culturally and the music. I mean, as someone, again, who I was there until my teen years, it was a very different experience than I know a lot of my friends live in Nashville now that grew up here. And I go, oh, this is different. Culturally, it was obviously very diverse, but it was obviously musically very diverse. And I can hear that on the record. I mean, the music, the first thing starts with like a metal guitar riff, and then you go into maybe more of your signature style. But you've got a stacked list of people you're working with on here. Obviously, Killer Mike and T.I. and some Atlanta legends as well, other people that are on that list. What was it like working those guys into what would become, the 10th Lecrae record?
Yeah, I wanted to walk the talk, and I those are guys that I've been walking with for years. You know what I mean? So that wasn't like a call like, hey, you think you'd be interested?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like both of them have a very high respect for me as a man, as a person. It's mutual respect.
Sure.
I think they've seen me over the years. They're like, you're really serious about this Jesus thing, but you're always in the community, and you're not a charlatan. You're not playing games. Like I gotta respect it. I gotta respect the consistency. And we have good conversations. We can talk politics. We can talk Christianity, and I'm not afraid of that. And I'm not afraid of. You get older, and you're just kind of like, if Mike sits down with me and he says, the reason I don't like Christianity is because it's just right wing, judgmental, and I can say that's not true, and let me tell you why. And then we can start having these combos, and that builds relationship and friendship and trust. And so to get them to be on a song was great, because they know I'm not going to say, hey, come over here and get out of character.
Yeah. Come preach. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, let's talk about grief as grown men. And a great song comes from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, also, you've seen now, I feel like you were so ahead of your time with that. I mean, obviously, you've been collaborating with people for years that maybe were outside of that bubble, but now we're finally even seeing it start to influence in, like, as you'd say, major Christian music, whether it's, your Brandon Lake and going with Jelly Roll or Connor Price and Forrest Frank. These guys are breaking down that. And I know with Reach and everything you've done, you've kind of built that as well, which is this ability to, if you want to be, you guess deconstruct what the walls were in terms of the way new people are coming to find music. My son found your music not through me; he found it through Fortnite. You find it through different ways, and he never said, "Oh, Lecrae is a Christian artist," or "This is a Christian artist," or Forrest Frank, or whoever this is. It's almost become democratized, where it's like, oh no, music has now become music, and you're seeing the Christian industry, the Christian music, I guess, world pick up on that, maybe more so than ever.
That's right. Now you nailed it. It's the democratization of music. And, I had a lot of combos with Forrest before he really kind of broke out.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool to see, like, he was like, oh, I just use social media. There's no Christian bookstore. There's no like Christian channel. It's just
where's
like,
it going? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same place where all the other non-Christians live. And he really taught me a lesson. I learned from him during that time period. And so, it's kind of like, man, you put it out there now, and the world says, oh, wow, this came across my algorithm and I didn't even know it existed. It's not like this siloed space. It's coming across different people's algorithms because it's gaining traction. And so that's we've had several songs go viral. Coming in Hot went viral not because we put it in a Christian box, but because we just put it out in the atmosphere amongst. Will Smith used it, Kim Kardashian used it, and then you let God change people's lives with stuff like that.
Yeah, and I have to say your team does an excellent job at that, and everyone who I've worked with, even just to wrap this up, because I only got a few more minutes with you, because you get it. Your team seems to get it. You understand where you're reaching people and how to do that. There's a bit of a pun there unintentionally, but it's really true. I think you guys were laying the groundwork for what a lot of people are doing, and now we're seeing that pay off just tremendously. So congratulations on the new record. I'm thrilled to hear it. I can't wait to hear what's next. Maybe to wrap it up, is there one track you think that if people are like, man, I haven't taken a listen to this new record yet, where should they start? Start track one? Where do you want them to go?
I mean, track one is punching your throat immediately.
It's pretty hard.
It sets the precedent for sure. But you know what, man? I mean, to me, I love Holidays with John Bellion personally, just because it's a little bit of a left of center song, and I think it's something that everybody can relate to, regardless of where you what you believe or where you stand. It reminds us, like, man, we're busier than we've ever been. We're more anxious than we've ever been, and we keep trying to take these unsanctioned breaks, and thinking that doom scrolling is like a break from the monotony. And it's like, no, you need to let it all just stop. Just stop, and don't add a thing to take a break. You don't need the liquor to take a break. You don't need the doom scrolling to take a break. Just take a break. Go sit outside. So holidays would probably be the one. Yeah.
All right. Well, man, thank you so much for spending, again, a few minutes with us. And I'm just excited that the record is out and we're going to share it with everybody. And congratulations.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man. Great.